We record history using calendars, the Julian calendar, the Gregorian, the Hebrew calendar, but these are merely cultural labels, and labels eventually drift out of phase with physical reality. Centuries of leap year miscalculations and shifting political borders create massive, cumulative gaps in our historical data. To map a perfectly accurate historical timeline, we have to abandon calendar dates entirely. We replace them with a continuous, unbroken sequence of integers. We call this system the fall day number, or FDN. It operates by assigning a single integer to every 24-hour cycle, counting forward from an established origin point. This bypasses human approximations completely. Instead of relying on a standard 365-day calendar year, it aligns with true solar precision time, measuring exactly 365.2421896698 days per year. Human calendars obscure the underlying math. Time keeps itself. To understand the true chronology of human history, we have to start counting the days instead of reading the labels. Isaac Newton spent 30 years obsessing over a single mathematical problem, decoding a unified biblical timeline. Archbishop James Ussher devoted his entire career to the exact same challenge. Both men fell short of absolute precision. Newton and Ussher followed the correct chronological logic, but they were working with incomplete datasets. To lock a unified timeline, they needed 3 specific variables 17th century astronomy couldn't provide: a fixed celestial anchor, a year length accurate to 8 decimal places, and a modulo 7 weekday verification protocol. Building a unified chronology is a rigid computational problem. Solving it requires the precision of modern astronomical data. When we read the first chapter of Genesis as a system bootlog, the sequence follows a strict engineering deployment: command, execution, then verification. Day 1 begins with the command for light. In physics, light serves as the invariant constant, the baseline for all measurement. By establishing this constant, the system installs the foundational requirement for special relativity. Day 2 describes the installation of a firmament. This creates a pressure boundary. In a vacuum, life requires containment, establishing the thermodynamic boundaries for a stable planetary system. This geometric structure of spacetime, visualized as a gravitational well, physically contains Earth's atmosphere. On day 4, the system positions the sun, moon, and stars. This is the activation of the system clock. Kepler's laws govern these celestial bodies. Like interlocking teeth of a gearbox, these orbital mechanics mesh with mathematical exactness, a celestial clock anchoring the FDN count. The creation narrative follows a load-bearing architecture. Every step installs the physical constraints required for the biological systems that follow. To prove this timeline is accurate, we rely on a fail-safe mechanism built directly into the sequence, the modulo 7 checksum. We take the fall day number, subtract 1, apply modulo 7, and add 1. This unbroken loop locks historical nodes to specific weekdays, like FDN1 calculating exactly to Sunday. Introducing a single day of chronological drift permanently breaks the downstream phase alignment. This mathematical guardrail removes human bias. Arbitrary date shifting or timeline manipulation becomes statistically impossible. This strict counting system resolves a long-standing historical contradiction. The biological birth of Jesus is anchored to 4 BCE, but the celestial alignment described in Revelation 12 did not occur until a year later, in 3 BCE. We can map this exact astronomical window using modern NASA and JPL Horizons telemetry. Telemetry for September 11, 3 BCE, FDN 1,450,379 is precise. The sun was in Virgo, the moon at the feet, and a 12-star crown formed in Leo. Simultaneously, Jupiter performed a retrograde loop around Regulus, acting as a celestial coronation ceremony. The 4 BCE biological birth represents the hardware arrival, the physical initialization of the child into the mortal regime. The 3 BCE celestial sign serves as the software authentication. It is the external legal seal, verifying the child's status to the world through the most precise clock in existence. These events are separated by exactly one true solar year. This follows the +1 anniversary protocol, where an administrative status shifts on the first day of the second year. Attempting to collapse this one-year gap would trigger an off-by-1 error. That single missing day would break the modulo 7 weekday phase and shatter the entire 4,000-year sequence. We don't have to rely on orbital data alone. Ground-level historical forensics narrowify this exact one-year gap. A linguistic proof is embedded directly in the original Greek texts. When describing 4 BCE, the text uses the word brephos, meaning a newborn infant. But when describing the Magi visiting later, it shifts to paidion, defining a toddler. This timeline also explains the actions of King Herod. His decree to eliminate all children 2 years and under was a calculated forensic buffer, based precisely on when the star initially appeared. Linguistics, travel timelines, and lethal decrees all stack together. This multi-layered evidence seals the math of the 365-day astronomical gap. Look at this massive, zoomed-out timeline spanning from the system boot sequence at FDN -10,961 to the software authentication at FDN 1,450,379. Across millennia, the modulo 7 checksum nodes pulse rhythmically, proving there is zero drift in the entire structure. This unified framework bypasses the vulnerability of human calendars completely. It was achieved by relying strictly on physics and arithmetic. Time does not negotiate with belief or tradition. It is a rigid, uncountable sequence, and it only resolves when subjected to the absolute constraints of orbital mechanics.